I'm Laurie Blake. Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. On Fridays, we wear pink. Our top story today is that the former WWE star and owner-operator of Cody Rhodes' worst match ever, Ted DiBiase Jr., has allegedly been trying to on the poor and could potentially be facing his own personal hell in a cell. But which would mean that the $1 million lad has been charged with 6 counts of wire fraud and 4 counts of money laundering, among other charges, according to an unsealed federal indictment, and could be facing some serious hard time. Serious hard time. Title of your WWE Premium Live event. It comes right after Great Balls of Fire in the calendar and right before Over the Edge in your house. And then after that, it's sort of mumbling sorry and going home. Anyway, speaking of dickwads, allegedly, DiBiase Jr. is staring down some serious prison time as each count of wire fraud comes with a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, whereas each money laundering charge comes with a max penalty of 10 years. So by the end of it, he could be the million-year man. According to the indictment, which was unsealed in Mississippi, DiBiase was part of a scheme to misappropriate millions of dollars, more than $77 million of federal safety net funds intended for needy families and low-income individuals in the state. You're gonna have to bleep this. The gang are alleged to have fraudulently obtained the funds, including from the Emergency Food Assistance Program and the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program. The ringleader, John Davis, was executive director of the Mississippi Department of Human Services and is alleged to have directed the MHDS to sub-grant funds to 2 non-profit organizations, which would then in turn award sham contracts to various individuals and entities for social services that simply were never going to be provided. DiBiase was said to have been awarded 5 of these sham contracts and used the federal funds to buy a vehicle and a boat and for the down payment on a house. And I think what's really annoying about all of this is that he's bought a house when he's likely now moving to an even bigger one. A real big house. He is in prison. And that's a real legacy. While DiBiase Jr. could wind up serving hard times could be ahead for AEW if a new report about Warner Bros. Discovery being interested in WWE programming is to be believed. While discussing WWE's upcoming media rights negotiations on the Sports Illustrated Media podcast, James Andrew Miller let slip that there are those at Warner who are reportedly interested in buying the rights to air WWE Raw. Now this is an issue because AEW shows currently air on Warner Bros. Discovery networks, and it's not even a case of how will they coexist, but can the company actually afford to have them coexist? Because after the merger with Discovery last year, the company saw massive layoffs and cost-saving cuts in an effort to save billions of dollars. And though AEW has remained steady in the face of all of that, even rumored to be getting a 3rd TV show, like We Need More Wrestling, if Warner get hold of WWE Raw, is that simply now just too much wrestling for one company to own? Because after all, WWE are actively looking to increase the amount of dollary dues that they will make from TV rights negotiations. Interestingly, on top of all of this, the theory goes that if Warner Bros. Discovery do get hold of the rights to Raw, they would likely choose to move it from Monday nights. I swear to God, if they put it on Saturday and I have to work Sunday, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. I went through this with flipping SmackDown. Like a poor Tempest. Every Saturday. So as we heard yesterday, there's a lot of backstage unrest in WWE these days, and it is all CM Punk's fault. Hang on, sorry, that was Force of Habit. Who's the other guy who's always in the news? He's got a little moustache, evil in his eye. Satan? Is it Satan? Oh, it's Vince. Despite all the backstage turmoil, though, there has actually been some good news for WWE talent this week, that being WWE's new deal with streaming platform Twitch, which will once again allow superstars to use the platform and, crucially, earn some sweet muns for themselves doing it, with WWE only taking a small, reportedly, single-figure amount according to Fightful Select. Now, Wrestling Observer's Brian Alvarez would also report that WWE's cut of the deal is from the Twitch side, not the talent side, while Andrew Zarian would report that WWE actually went above and beyond to negotiate the best possible deal for talent, with Zarian stating that a Twitch source had told him WWE execs negotiated for talent to get a larger cut than other creators on the platform. This was described to me as a very talent-friendly deal. Does that sound right at all? I haven't been out of the room for a minute, so I'm just gonna go check that the rapture hasn't started or anything like that. No, so it hasn't actually, but I thought WWE doing something like that in the interest of talent would be one of the signs of the end time, along with the flying locusts, the dead walking. Guess they just did something nice. Feels weird. Fightful also noted that the only potential restrictions on the content that talent produce on Twitch would be if it involves talent from other companies, because in those cases they would have to ask WWE for permission. While WWE has managed to bring back much of their departed talent courtesy of the game taking over, one star that seemingly could not be convinced to return to Stanford was Mercedes Mone, aka Sasha Banks. And you know what? It's very hard to say the decision was a bad one, considering the success she's had since moving across to Japan, becoming the IWGP Women's Champion in her first match. But while things have been going well, to put it kind of mildly, rumors have abounded regarding Mone's contract potentially expiring as soon as after her match with Mayu Iwatani at today's Stardom All-Star Grandom Queendom event. So many dums, it's like the end of EastEnders. However, Mone has now addressed these reports in an interview with Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso, stating the rumors are so far from the truth. If it's not coming from me or my voice, then how does anyone else know my business? None of it is true unless it is coming from me, but it's just a reminder that I'm a conversation starter, a twisted conversation starter. So there's that. So I guess no WWE return anytime soon. But that does mean that there's always Forbidden Door AEW, isn't it? Always Forbidden Door. Speaking of AEW, while there's never a shortage of new faces showing up in the company, we have recently seen the return of one of the old guard, that being Shawn Spears. Now, Spears made his return at the April 14th AEW Rampage in a losing effort to Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Oh, welcome back. While Spears hasn't wrestled much of late, he would recently speak of his aspirations to win championship gold in a major company, something that he amazingly has yet to do. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet, Spears would state that he doesn't want to wrestle much longer, but that is not due to any health-related issues. Citing the late John Huber as the inspiration behind his drive to win a championship gold, Spears would state he wants the same in order to share the moment with his own newborn son. He said, "I want to leave something like that with my son, so I don't know. We all want to be champions." That's why we get into this. But more so now that I've had him, it's just a stamp to kind of wrap things up. And now with Wardlow just winning back his TNT title, perhaps we could revisit some old history there with a little title program. Look at Tony. Anyway, Spears choosing to retire while the getting is good is actually quite rare in wrestling, because many others go until their bodies can't go no more. Injuries are sadly an inevitable part of wrestling, but why do they happen? And how? And when? And who? Here's WrestleTalk's resident medical expert, Dr. Sigmund Freud, attempting to answer at least one of those questions by investigating an infamous injury from wrestling's history.
February 18th, 2001. Kevin Nash had what we call in the medical world a big oopsie on his leg. As you can see here, the leg is positioned at a superlative angle. This is the origin of the oopsie. In my professional medical opinion, Kevin Nash was clearly missing all of the bones in his leg, with a condition known as "where has my bones gone itis." Ordinarily, recovery time for this condition is at least 3 human lifetimes. But hold on to your quads, because here comes a medical miracle. We can only presume from Kevin Nash immediately regrowing his bones and standing up that he has what is known as super duper blood, something that I personally have spent 42,376 euros in an effort to recreate. This has proven to be unsuccessful thus far. I have been drinking the liquid for a full week and I feel extremely sick. Next week, we'll be looking at a man who had a bad time being run over by a car.
Now, with the WWE draft just a week away from kicking off, there has naturally been a lot of speculation about NXT call-ups. After all, every WWE superstar is eligible. That's what Tripp said. Nobody's safe. And while names such as Bron Breakker are usually among the first mentioned in regard to a call-up, there is another rather forgotten NXT star who WWE may see as an even bigger future star than him. In height, Von Wagner. That's right. You know Von Wagner. He's tall. He's a woodsman. He was Kyle O'Reilly's bro. Until he wasn't wrestling. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE wants Wagner to reach very high heights in the company. But the only problem is, he's got no charisma. Not my words. This table right here in the WrestleTalk studio has more pizzazz than that man. Not my words. Dave Meltzer said he's tall. He's got blonde hair. They want him to main event WrestleMania, but you need charisma to get to that level. WWE's hopes for Wagner have been evident for a while, with some even labeling him as the next Edge. However, as of yet, he hasn't had a ton of chance to show and develop his own character, aside from being kind of It's kind of tall. I say we bring back Kyle O'Reilly, we do a live sex celebration, we give him the money in the bank and then the championship. It's a winning strategy. However, as this week's NXT did show, they are at least trying with Von Wagner to kind of build up a proper character with him, so there is always hope and always the opportunity to do a sex celebration. While Von Wagner as a main eventer is a little bit odd to imagine, you haven't seen anything yet, because in what can only be described as a 3-week late April Fool's joke, WrestleVotes dropped a new report revealing a new WWE piece of programming coming to the USA Network in the near future. The new show is described as a new joint show where kids will compete with superstars in a trivia challenge currently titled WWE Tall versus Small. Yeah! You heard that right. Tall versus small. At least Von Wagner's height could be put to good use. While WWE clearly put about as much thought into that title as I do when I choose what socks I'm gonna wear, I only wear white socks, that's the joke. The new show sounds, frankly, pretty awful, but let's reserve some judgment. I mean, WWE and game shows have produced some fun results in the past. Remember that WWF Weakest Link crossover. But all I do want to know is how tall do you have to be to actually qualify for the tall team? Like, does Rey qualify? Is it actually just an age-based thing, or can Rey Mysterio be on the team, or does he have to be on Team Small? Can he be a ringer for Team Small? Team Small's going to win. The entire WWE locker room is very, very, very upset. Watch on to find out more.
As a new report from PW Insider Elite notes that several backstage segments involving female talents were cut from this week's episode of Raw.